Welcome back to Virtual Trade. I'm joined by new trader Jenny Horne. Jenny, welcome back.
Happy to be back, Scott.
Good to have you here, of course. And today we're going to have an interesting discussion. We're going to talk about top-down analysis.
Great. I don't really know much about this at all, actually, so I have a lot to learn.
Yeah, and well, we talked earlier about building the portfolio and
Right.
diversification and allocation within that portfolio. So we kind of established why that's important. And top-down analysis sort of helps us get from the top or the big picture
Right.
down to individual stocks.
Great. Yeah, I think something about the phrase is a little bit overwhelming, but when you explain it like that, it doesn't sound so bad.
Perfect. All right, well, we'll go along. So basically what we'll be doing, Jenny, is moving from like the overall market down to the next level, which would be sectors. And then finally, we'll get down to industry groups within those sectors, and then how to find individual stocks. So really it's going from the whole market, like kind of in a funnel, down to just individual stocks.
Right, quite literally top down, makes sense.
Yep, okay, well, let's do this. So how do we get started here? Well, first of all, we want to look at the big picture. So let's start with something big, like the market itself. And any names that come to mind for an overall market indice?
I think the S&P 500.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. That is typically what we call the benchmark for the US market. So we'll use the symbol SPX. So why don't we go to the chart, Jenny? I'll let you just take us to the chart and put in the symbol SPX.
And there it is.
Right, so what we want to do now, part of the first step of top-down analysis is kind of defining what the market or the trend of the market is. Obviously, we'd prefer to be into an upward moving market
Right.
than investing in a downward moving market. Does that make sense?
Totally.
All right, so let's go ahead and draw in a trend line from this particular time period. And Jenny, I believe we're looking at a 1 year, 1 day chart. So let's take a look at the 1 year trend of the overall market
Okay.
and maybe draw in that line.
Now, should I draw it myself or should I?
Sure, I'll have you go ahead and do that. You're going to go to the drawing tools and click on trend line. Perfect. And we'll start on the first day of the chart, which is 1 year ago.
Okay.
And left click there, and then move it to where the stock is now, or where the overall market is right now. And there you go. There's our trend line. Now, what does that trend line look to you? Trending up, trending sideways, or trending down?
Well, it seems to be a little bit of, I mean, it's definitely upward, but there definitely is movement both ways.
Exactly. So this trend line kind of works out so that it's in the sort of the middle of the ups and downs of the market, but the trend line itself, definitely moving higher.
Definitely.
Okay, so that's step one. We've kind of established the overall market direction, and it appears to be in a favorable direction, which is up, obviously. Now, second, what we want to do is start getting into the actual sectors that comprise the market.
Right.
So let's break into a couple different sectors, and I think probably one of the easiest ways is let's go to the Market Watch tab. I'll have you go ahead and do that.
Okay.
And within the Market Watch tab, well, guess what? It happens to be on the S&P 500 right now. So Jenny, let's tell you what, let's hide the left side bar just to make this a little bit bigger. All right, and I believe we're in the S&P 100 right now, so perfect. Where do we see our sectors in here?
Well, they're labeled. So we see information technology, financials, consumer discretionary. They're all labeled, which is nice.
Absolutely, and this is a very easy way to see the makeup of the different indices and what sectors they're in.
Right.
Also, when you're looking at that sector, how do I see what is in the information technology sector? Well, it sort of gives you, if you follow my mouse here, it gives you a little bit of a darker, thicker line that delineates all the stocks within that sector. And you're absolutely right. You can see, I think all 11 sectors are probably covered here, because I can see everything in here from industrials to telecommunications. Pretty much everything within this market is covered. So Jenny, let's do this. Let's take your personal portfolio, drop it in here, and again, quickly take a look at the sectors that were diversified in within our portfolio.
Okay. Now I think I go to personal watch
Correct,
list.
personal.
And there's Jenny's first watch list.
And there it is. And we did diversify this, and you can see we're in most of the sectors. I think 10 out of 11, I believe. Mm-hmm. So again, we don't have as many stocks as the S&P 100.
Right.
But you can see we're pretty well diversified in the sectors.
We definitely are. I mean, I see everyone kind of across the board.
Okay, now the next question is, within these sectors, and you can see obviously we picked different stocks already, but someone who's kind of new to building a portfolio or maybe wants to add to their portfolio because they look at this and they say, wait a minute, I don't have much in the energy or the utility sector. I'd like to maybe add 1 or 2 more stocks there. So the next question is, within the sector, how do I sort of break down into what we call the sub or the industries within that sector?
Right, okay.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do for that. We're going to go back to the Market Watch tab, and go to quotes. And right here where it says S&P 500 sectors, well, that's obviously we can see the sectors there, and that's the nice tool as well to see the different sectors that exist. But what we want to do is go into the sectors and look at the industry groups. So if I go ahead and left click here, drop down to by industry, now you're able to go into a sector like energy and keep going to the right, and now we can start breaking down even further. Within the energy sector, I'm looking at just equipment and services. And then Jenny, if I keep going even deeper, I can go into oil and gas drilling and equipment and services. So again, to use the word drill down, that's exactly what we're doing here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that makes perfect sense the way it gets kind of deeper and deeper, building back the layers of the sectors.
And what you'll find is that when you go ahead and click on these different groups here, it takes you to a listing of all the stocks within that industry, which is a subset of the sector itself.
Right, okay.
So that's how we can actually get down to individual stocks within that sector. So I think what we might do is go ahead, we'll keep with energy here. And what we're going to do, we've picked energy already. So what we're going to do is go into maybe a couple of different examples within energy to find some individual stocks. So first thing I'm going to do within energy is I'm going to go to, let's start off with exploration. So let's start off here. We're going to go into the services group, and I'm going to go down here, and let's look at exploration and production. So Jenny, why don't you go ahead and click on that? And then take a look at the different stocks that actually pop up here. There's quite a few.
Oh, right.
Now, I know one that pops off the top of my head, ConocoPhillips. The symbol is COP. And if we scroll down, I'm sure you'll be able to find that stock as well. As a matter of fact, yeah, it might be a little bit quicker. This is a big industry group within. So let's see if we can find COP. ConocoPhillips, I'm sure many people. Now, if you click on that, remember, we are linked. Well, actually, let's make sure we're linked. Hold on, let me just grab it for a second here. Make sure that we're linked to yellow. There we go. And now if we go to the charts, I'm sorry, let's go back to our Market Watch and go down to ConocoPhillips. Let me just grab it real quick. Whoops, I went a little too far there. Just give me a second. Let's go to ConocoPhillips. All right, do you see it in there now? We got to scroll just a little bit further down. Now, once you get there and we click on it, now that we're linked, ConocoPhillips will just jump right into the chart. It will jump right into our trade tab as well, and then we'll just go from there. Okay, great. Clicked on it. Now let's go to the chart tab and let's see if it, yeah, great. There's ConocoPhillips. Now take a look at that trend line. Again, you can kind of see that it's been trending up kind of with the market.
Right, definitely. It's had a good year.
Okay, well, let's keep doing this and find a couple more stocks. Let's go back to the Market Watch tab. I'll have you go ahead and do it this time. So if we're looking now let's go to something called drillers. Drillers, and these are companies that actually are involved in exploration, but actually drilling for the petroleum itself. So if we go here, there we go, oil, gas, and drilling. So one company that pops to mind for me is Transocean, which is RIG. A lot of people refer to it as RIG. Let's see if we can find that one in here.
This was a much shorter list. So
there it is.
Much easier to find.
Transocean. Yeah, this will be a smaller list.
Okay, now if I go to charts, and there they are.
There, yeah, absolutely. So now we're looking at RIG or Transocean, and again, that stock, Jenny, what do you think? I mean, it's kind of up and down, but I would say the trend overall is positive.
I would definitely say it looks positive. I mean, especially when you look at the beginning of the year, they're much up from there, but there were some bumps along the way.
Okay, now let's just say we're looking at the energy sector again, and maybe, Jenny, let's look for a stock that kind of does it all, what we refer to as an integrated company, okay. A fully integrated company. So we'll go back to Market Watch again.
Market Watch.
And we'll go back down to by industry group, energy. Now go to the right side, drop down one more, and let's look for integrated oil and gas services. Perfect. Now this is again being a large group, but this is a multi-integrated, potentially a multi-international company that does a little bit of everything. So they've got their feet in the drilling, the production, the transportation, maybe even the refining. So what would be a big name that comes to mind? Remember, how about one we have? How about Chevron?
Chevron, they are a big
CVX
name.
Would be the symbol.
So CVX, there we go.
And there it is, yes, that's a multinational or multi-integrated company. Mm-hmm. So let's take a look at the chart on that one as well. Okay, it had some real ups and downs, hasn't it? But I would have to say that trend from a year ago to today is also in a positive move.
Right, but still a little bit off their highs in, it's around December. So they're still trending down from there, I guess you could say.
Yeah, absolutely. So now there's 3 different individual stocks that we've looked at so far. Now, if you wanted to find more, we could go back to the Market Watch list again and again further break down those groups. I'm going to click on quotes again just to go through it one more time, or just below quotes, and go to those industry groups, and we'll stay within energy. But again, all the different sectors are listed here. You can jump into any of them. Jenny, if I wanted to go into consumer staples, you can see there's a lot of different subcategories: food, beverages, tobacco products, household goods, personal, and it really can get, you can really drill down to individual companies and stores. For example, even apparel. It will break it down that much for you. So
yeah,
great tool.
This seems like a great way to dive deeper into these sectors, because I know the S&P 500 can be very overwhelming, being that there are so many stocks, but this seems like a good way to kind of make it smaller and simpler for the beginning trader.
Absolutely. A great function on the Thinkorswim platform. Just remember, go to Market Watch, click on the groups, and go to, of course, by industry. All right, so Jenny, let's just recap what we did here. We started with the big picture. We looked at the trend of the market in general. We looked at the 11 different sectors, right? And then we went into the industry groups, which are the subcomponents of each sector. And then we found how if you click on those, it would take you to individual stocks within that group.
Yeah, and I learned a lot. I mean, you can see it just narrows it down, and instead of these watch lists can be very overwhelming, but this seems a little bit underwhelming.
Yeah, this is a great tool, a great place to come. Now remember, some of those lists, like you pointed out, can be rather lengthy, and some of them are a little bit shorter. So again, it just depends. I would say take a look at a couple, see if there's some names that you recognize. I'm sure everyone that we put in the original portfolio will be in these industry groups.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jenny, what do you think? So far, so good, right?
Yeah, and I think this is something you could explore. Even I could do it on my own time, because there's a lot now I kind of want to look at.
Right. Okay, well, great starting point for anybody that's building a portfolio and wants to have diversification and allocation.
Absolutely.
All right, well, that was great. Jenny, thanks so much. That was a great session as well, and we look forward to our next session together.
Thanks, Scott.
All right, great.